What's up everybody, it's Logan with Chronic Cultivation, and today my worms came in, so I'm starting a worm bin and I want to show you part of this process. Now unfortunately I can't record the whole thing because I'm making space on my phone. I'm actually recording in 1080 instead of 4K. Apologies if you don't like the lower quality. Sometimes I gotta do that because the space that 4K takes up is absolutely ridiculous. Let me flip you around and show you what we got going on here. So I haven't talked about how to make a worm bin at all, and I don't know if I will at any point. It's not really the thing I do. There's a lot of good tutorials out there, but I think there could be more, so I probably will someday show you how I did this. Essentially, a worm bin has a lot of composting worms. In this case, I got 100% red wigglers, which are really good composting worms. They decompose organic matter like your compost that isn't fully composted yet and whatnot. Your food scraps, it'll turn it into compost. I've got two bins here. The bottom bin is just a normal bin. There's nothing modified with the bottom bin except for that I have a brick and a 2x4 because I didn't have two 2x4s in there just to create a little space between them. So the top one is probably sitting, about right here, like 6 inches up from the bottom. And there's holes in the top bin where the worms will be. That's so that if the moisture gets to be in excess, maybe I'm adding a lot of liquidy food scraps or I'm not adding enough carbonaceous material, which is like your straw or your paper towel or cocoa coir or peat moss, or usually it's browns though. I'm not sure peat moss would actually be a carbonaceous material. Paper and straw though, good example. Those soak up moisture, but if you don't have enough of them and you're putting in too many foods, then you will get extra leachate, it's called. It's basically a byproduct of the worms doing their thing. It kind of makes stuff slimy, probably smells bad, and it's going to drain down into the bottom one. So that's the only reason I have this bottom one here. I'm not going to give an opinion too much on if you should use it or anything like that. I can tell you what I've read is that it's very mixed opinions on the leachate. People used to use it all the time for teas and whatnot, and then more recently we've seen that it often is more anaerobic bacteria and things in the leachate that we don't really want. So I'll probably just toss it, but I'll look more into it, maybe experiment. In the worm bin, you need to create some worm bedding. It's really not a science. I'm just using whatever I had laying around. On the bottom I have a nice layer of paper towels that I've moistened to field capacity, which is just that I could wring out a few drops, but they're not exactly soaking wet. Then I added some peat moss, seed starting mixes. This is stuff that was just laying around. There is no perlite, and that's because perlite tends to not break down when they decompose it, and I don't want my castings to be full of perlite, which might kind of alter the water retention capabilities of whatever I add it to. So for instance, if I add 30% worm castings into a new bed that I'm making, you might do 30% worm castings, 30% peat moss, and then 30% perlite. Well, if my worm castings is also largely perlite, it's going to screw up my ratios and whatnot. So that's why I'm going to try and keep it out of there as best as I can, and I think we got enough here that we're fine. So paper towel, peat moss bedding. I would have used coconut coir, and I ordered some for this reason, but it's not here yet, and the worms got to go in there right away. And then I've got a bucket here with a bunch of water in it, which I need to drain, but this is just straw. It's organic straw, it's not sprayed or anything like that, and it doesn't have any seeds in it. And I'm just going to create another few inches on top and probably mix it into the peat moss. In fact, you could probably do that right now. Now, straw doesn't actually have very good water retention properties, so I read you don't really want to just use straw. But otherwise, it's good. It gives them lots of little nooks and crannies to hang out in. This is already shredded, which is awesome. That handful is much more wet, you can see, because it's clumping together. I'm going to just spread this all around. And then what we're going to do is probably dig a hole, put the food in it, and then put the worms on top. I'm going to pause the video here as far as the recording goes so that I can add in a few more inches and mix this up. Then I'll get the worms and I'll bring you back and start recording again so you won't even notice the jump once we have the worms. Alright, we're back. So I added more straw. I added some paper towel in there just because I don't want it to get too wet, and it's a little damp, but I think we're where we want to be. I added some grapes I bought a few days ago, maybe a week ago, and just wasn't really gonna finish them off most likely. I put some oatmeal that I had for breakfast in here that I didn't finish, some blueberries that were going old, raspberries. Basically, I wish I had more like actual garbage food waste to give them, and instead I'm kind of burning some money by giving them this, but they're bound to love it, and I'm curious to see how they do eating it. Next, we have the worms. So I bought them from Mimi's Worms. I don't have any affiliation with them. I think it was like a Redditor who suggested this instead of Trader Joe's, I think is the name, which is the common one. There's a lot of common big names out there. These are 100% red wigglers, I think I mentioned before. That's important because a lot of times when you get composting worms, it's more of a mix of like blues and some night crawlers, and it's not all these red wigglers that are the ones I really want. Down the road, I'll probably start a bin with some of the other ones, the other types that dig deeper and do a little more aeration and less composting. But for now, this is my first time ever having a worm bin. We'll see what happens with this. I might cook them because if you add uncomposted stuff, it gets too hot from composting, and there's a lot that can go wrong. They might all crawl out if they don't like the environment. They might just escape, and I'll have 1,000 worms, which is how many is in the bag, by the way, crawling around, and my 6 cats will go crazy. I like the way that they sewed this shut. It's kind of interesting. I don't really know how to open it. Usually when they have this kind of thing, you know, like a grain feed bag, you just unzip it from there. I'm going to use some scissors, cut one of these, see if that'll let me pull it maybe. Trying to keep it in the frame, but it's a little tough. Let's see, is that going to work? Okay, we're just going to cut the bag then. I'm not going to reuse it. Now they ship it in dry peat moss, which acts as insulation. So they might be kind of dormant because they aren't very moist right now. So that's why it's real important we get this done now, and why I'm not going to really edit it or anything, besides the fact that it takes a lot of time, and I'm kind of trying to stop editing so much. Because I know you guys aren't watching for the editing, you're watching for the content. What I'm doing right now is just cutting the top off this bag. And in fact, we cut it enough. So I'm excited. The first look at our worms. I don't know if you can see in there. Where are we? Okay, you can't really. Just brown peat moss. Here we go. Alright, make sure I get all those little guys. I don't want them trapped in there and dying. Probably getting smelly. I wonder if this cloth bag it came in is compostable. That would be kind of cool. We're not going to find out right now. Make sure I didn't miss any in there. Okay, I think that's all our wormies. I'll try not to block it with my shadow too much. Let's get our hand in there and just see what we got. Don't want to hurt them. Wow. Wow. I hope you can see that okay. Whenever I check the camera, I shadow you. Let me put it closer. Now that is a lot of worms. Holy moly. It's a lot more kind of than I expected. They are rather small, but they did say they would probably be becoming somewhat smaller and just kind of dried out from the dry environment, and that they'll liven up in the next couple days. So what we're going to do, I didn't dig a big enough hole for them. The cats are going to have a little tussle behind you. You want to kind of bury them. So that is what I'm doing. I wonder if I can spread them out too. They'll probably do that on their own. These things have been living in nature for a long, long time, right? And then we want to cover them up. Oh, I also added some banana peels and a pepperhead in here somewhere. And something I'm thinking we can do with the channel is like a little bit of an experiment. We'll put new foods in there and we'll check on it in about a week. I'll dig around and find them and we'll see, you know, did they eat it? Is there mold on it? Did they not eat a certain part? I've seen some other channels do similar that it's actually kind of cool. Sometimes they don't eat like a burnt shrimp peel, but they will eat the non-burnt one. Things like that. Oops. Cats are going crazy. I actually think they might not like pepper seeds, so we'll check on that because I just sprinkled pepper seeds all over them. I want to get these covered up a little better so that the food's not just sitting on the top, because they tend to burrow, and that's where they're going to be doing their work. Shove it all over. I'll just have to spread the food out a little bit. There was so many worms that I think I won't have to keep all the food in one little spot like I planned. Sometimes that's good though, because then you can check on that spot and see how they're doing. Kitties, please relax. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. And the final thing I added here is just kind of a paper towel cover. Pumpkin, come here. Leave Gally alone, please. Kiki, don't get involved. Okay. Now, we hope they don't escape or die. I'll let you guys know what happened in an update not too long. The blue mats are coming, so if you want to see how I set up automatic watering with blue mats, I will at least have some footage of that, and I'll go over it. I'll definitely show you when it's set up. I just don't know how much of the setup I'll do, but stay tuned and you'll find out as soon as I decide and do it. It should be coming this week, though I don't know when the video will be done or when I will set it up. Alright, I'll see you guys later. Peace.